Hi, could everyone please take their seats? Thank you. is a really hard act to follow, so I'm going to try my best. On behalf of the White House Initiative on Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, welcome to the White House celebration of Lunar New Year. We're so excited to be hosting everyone here in celebration of the Year of the Monkey. Our opening performance was from the Chinese Youth Club of Washington, D.C. CYC was chartered in 1939 and plays an active role in enriching the lives of Asian youth through its participation in cultural, athletic, and community events and activities. Generations of families have been engaged with CYC, and CYC continues to instill the values of teamwork, sportsmanship, integrity, respect, and volunteerism in its generations of members. Can we give another round of applause for CYC? Thank you to everyone who braved the snow, the ice, and the rain to get here today. I know we have folks who are joining us from all over the country, so on behalf of the initiative, we welcome you to Washington, D.C. In addition to folks that we have in the room today, we're also live streaming this program online right now at whitehouse.gov/live. So welcome to all of you who are tuning in via the live stream, and hello from the other side. My name is Bessie, and I'm a senior advisor at the initiative, and I'll be your MC for today. How many of you had heard of the initiative before coming here today? Quite a few of you. That means we're doing our job. Good. So for those of you who are hearing about the initiative for the first time, our office was reestablished by President Obama in 2009 to improve the quality of life and opportunities for Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, or AAPIs, through increased access to and participation in federal programs where our community is underserved. To put it simply, we want to make sure that no matter who you are, and no matter where you come from, no matter what you look like, America forever remains a place where you can make it if you try. Lunar New Year is an auspicious time of year. I grew up in a big Chinese family, and Lunar New Year meant that my house smelled like homemade turnip cakes for a week, that my siblings and I would be in a cleaning frenzy before New Year's Day, so we wouldn't end up sweeping all of our good fortune at the door on New Year's, and that as the youngest member of my family on my mom and dad's side, that my palms would always be open and ready to receive red envelopes of lucky money. Across the country, our communities mark the start of the Lunar New Year with festivals, parades, and lion dances across the country. We share our cultures and traditions with one another, not just in celebration of the New Year, but also in celebration of the strength of the AAPI community. 2016 is the year of the monkey. The monkey is often associated as a symbol of versatility and movement. We wish for a year of positive movement, moving immigration reform, healthcare access, educational opportunities, and much more in the right direction to improve the quality of life for AAPIs. We'll also be hearing about AAPI movement in the arts and storytelling later today during our panel. We have a full program in store, so I don't want to take up too much time. We have some superstar speakers and exciting performances in store. Just a note, for those of you who are in the White House for the first time, please note that in accordance with building event procedures, if you have a pink badge, you must be escorted by a White House intern at all times as you travel between rooms, including leaving the room to go to the bathroom, but that doesn't include them escorting you into the stall. And please keep this in mind for after event concludes today when you are leaving the auditorium. And can I get a show of hands? How many of you are on social media? Great. So we'll be posting on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram today, so check us out at White House AAPI. Again, that's at White House AAPI. And for those of you on social media, please use our event hashtag WhiteHouseLNY. On behalf of the initiative, I wish you and your loved ones happiness, prosperity, fortune, good health, and a happy new year. 新年快樂，恭喜發財. It's with great pleasure that I introduce our first speaker of the day. Elisa Ko serves as Associate Director of Intergovernmental Affairs here at the White House, working primarily with attorney generals and state legislators. Before joining the White House, Elisa served as Deputy Director for Ready for Hillary, where she managed the day-to-day operations for the organization. Prior to joining the Obama administration, Elisa worked on the Obama-Biden 2012 campaign as the National AAPI Vote Director and Western Operation Vote Director. Following the election, Elisa joined the 2013 Presidential Inaugural Committee as the Associate Director of the Office of Public Engagement. She is a native Californian and a graduate of UCLA. Without further ado, Elisa.
Thank you, Betsy, and thank you, the initiative, for putting on this amazing event. And on behalf of people here at the White House, happy Lunar New Year. Growing up, I always had memories, I think very similar to Betsy, on Lunar New Year, where I always got to wear new clothes. We got to have a big meal with lots of food on the table. Got to play a lot of games to test our good luck for this year. And there was always interesting traditions as well that we abide by. I, like Betsy, had to clean the house a lot. My brother and I, for some reason, had to quickly get our haircuts before the new year started. And the most memorable part of growing up was learning how to say in Mandarin, Happy New Year, and where is my red envelope? Of course, these were childhood memories, and as I grew older, started understanding that what New Year was really a time for families to come together. In America, it was a time for our family to get together with our extended family, our aunties and uncles, and it was almost like Thanksgiving in the sense that it was a time for families to come together. It was a time to share a good meal and play games with loved ones. So I think this is going to be actually the last Lunar New Year under President Obama's administration, and it's amazing what we have achieved together. Under this president, the economy created 14 million new jobs. Unemployment rate has been under 5%. 18 million people have now gained health care coverage. With the API community, we've done outreach through the initiative where we have more than 200 federal officials from regional offices across the country helping our communities connect with the federal resources. And it's really, really a large part due to the initiative. We've done a lot of things with data, which I know sounds geeky and nerdy, but it's really important to connect the right communities with the right services and the federal services. With that, the API student data meant more funding for servicing institutions that service APIs. Access, which is a big need in our community, we expanded language access. It's especially important during disasters. During the enrollment period for the affordable health care, we were able to have Google Hangouts in language. Jobs as well. The Small Business Administration has made many loans to API businesses, and the Workforce Development created API Employee Resource Group. While I start to reflect on the progress we've made under the president's administration, I really think about what more we have to do, and there's a lot that we have to do in our community, especially with only 338 days left. The president talks a lot about the fourth quarter and how a game can change during the fourth quarter. And folks here at the White House and administration have really embodied that sentiment that we wanted to continue to push as much, work as hard as we can the last 338 days. So we continue to need help from folks here, really stepping up, helping our community gain that voice, continue to work for each other to have a better life here in America. So in advance, thank you for everything that you have done. Thank you for everything you're going to continue to do. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the celebration. 新年快乐，万事如意。
Thank you for that warm welcome. Next up, we have Tina Chen, Assistant to the President and Chief of Staff to the First Lady Michelle Obama. Within the Obama administration, she also serves as the Executive Director for the Council on Women and Girls and the past Director of the White House Office of Public Engagement. Tina Chen was previously a partner in corporate litigation at Skadden Arps Slate Meagher Flom LLP. In that capacity, Tina represented public agencies in state and federal class actions, including the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services, the Illinois Department of Public Aid, and the Chicago Housing Authority. Tina is also a great friend of WIAPI's, and we're excited to have her here to share a special message from the White House.
Well, good afternoon and Happy New Year. I will not try to do it in Chinese since Bessie and Alyssa already covered that because actually my Chinese is terrible. But we are delighted to have you here at the White House and delighted to sponsor a White House Lunar New Year celebration. I especially want to thank everyone at the initiative, Bessie, Jason, for organizing this. I know we have some of our President's Advisory Committee members here, and want to welcome all of them here, and our performers. I want to thank you all for being here today to sponsor it. I see lots of former White House staff here. It's like a reunion for all the White House staff to come back. Chris Kang in particular, who will be on it. Daphne's going to be on a panel that coming up, so we're so delighted to have everyone here. We were asked to sort of reflect on our personal Lunar New Year memories. And I have to say, I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio in the 60s. Like one of 5 families in Cleveland, Ohio in the 60s. Back at a time where, quite frankly, we didn't have a huge community to celebrate with. And I was reaching back for I remember red envelopes, because we all remember the red envelopes, but not a whole lot more. And that's because it was a really different time in our country. And it was a really different time to be an Asian American, to be a Chinese American, in a place like Cleveland, Ohio, where there were very few Asian Americans at all. And it made me reflect back on how far we've come, how remarkably far this country has come, and where you have Lunar New Year celebrations now everywhere, where they're sponsoring them at the Kennedy Center, they're sponsoring them at Lincoln Center. It becomes, a focal point, not just for our community, but for our country as a whole. Every year at this time of year. And it is just a wonderful statement on the breadth of our nation, how far the country as a whole has come, but I also want to say how far our community has come. And I've seen that happen over just the last 7.5 years. Our community has gone from one of those just sort of blips on the electoral, college scene and a presidential election night. To many of you heard me say this story before. I never thought I'd see a time when, as we were in 2012, where the Asian American vote became a decisive vote to talk about in the national election. And here we are again at a time where it is so important for our community to stand up. And I'm especially proud of the White House Initiative. I have to say, I often talk about the White House Initiative as, and the President's Advisory Council as one of the premier examples of how to do an advisory council and an initiative in the federal government. One that not only advocates within the federal government, across all of our Asian American appointees, through all the work, and make sure that every part of the federal government addresses the needs of our community, but also has really been extensive in reaching out across the country, being present not just here in Washington, D.C., but all across the country. Our commissioners have been wonderful in how they've traveled and spoken out. Our initiative staff have been terrific in how they do it. You had a wonderful summit last year, our first ever national summit for Asian American Pacific Islanders here in D.C. And that has really put our community on the map, and there's so much more that we could do. So it's a great day to be thankful for what we have done in the last year, to look forward to what more we will do in the coming year. It's fitting the president is still on the West Coast with the South Asian leaders at the ASEAN Summit, just finishing up. I think their press conference is taking place right now. So it's a sort of a fitting moment for us, too, as he speaks out so strongly about our pivot to Asia and looking to the involvement and our involvement with the Pacific Rim and Asian countries. But he did also last week post on Facebook, sort of out there, our Lunar New Year message, his message from the President and the First Lady. And I want to just read that out to you again by way of extending the President's best wishes to all of you for Lunar New Year. Michelle and I send our warmest wishes to everyone celebrating the Lunar New Year across America and around the world. This is a time filled with family get-togethers and anticipation for the new year, a tradition I remember fondly from growing up in Hawaii. It's a time that also gives us the opportunity to honor the many contributions of the Americans who celebrate this holiday, whether they've been here for generations or they're newly arrived. Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders have helped build our country and make us a beacon to the world. Their stories are woven in our larger story, the patchwork quilt that is America, and they remind us that our strength comes from giving everyone a chance to contribute and welcoming each other into our communities. That's why Congress needs to reform our broken immigration system. In the meantime, we'll do what we can to make the system work better for families, workers, students, and entrepreneurs, and we'll keep fighting to give everyone a fair shot in the year ahead. The Year of the Monkey emphasizes shared values like leadership, innovation, and progress. It's an opportunity to cherish the rich heritage that connects children with their past and the traditions they'll carry into the future. So to everyone celebrating, from my family to yours, I wish you happiness, prosperity, and good health and good fortune during the new year. President Barack Obama. Happy New Year, everyone.
Thank you, Tina. Our next performance is from Washington Sorrychung, an organization dedicated to the cultivation of Korean classical music and other Korean traditional arts. Washington Sorrychung was founded in 2007 by Eun-soo Kim and has branches in Fairfax and Virginia Beach, Virginia. Sorrychung's mission is to promote Korean traditional music in the Washington, D.C. metro area through education, performance, and cultural enrichment programs. Please welcome Eun-soo Kim and Washington Sorrychung.
바다리가 난데 아리랑 아리랑 아라리요 아리랑 고개를 넘어간다 달을 버리고 하시는 님은 심리도 못 가서 알려난다 아리랑 아리랑 아라리요 어루 애기야 헌기영차 해기로구나 어루 애기야 어루 애기야 어기영차 해기로구나 정월 2월에 드는 액은 3월 4월에 맞고 3월 4월에 드는 액은 5월 단오에 담아가네 나 어루 애기야 어루 애기야 어기영차 해기로구나 5월 6월에 드는 액은 7월 8월에 맞고 7월 8월에 드는 액은 9월 9일에 담아가네 나 어루 애기야 어루 애기야 어기영차 해기로구나 9월 2일에 드는 액은 10월 모날에 맞고 10월 모날에 드는 액은 경지서 딸에 담아가네 나 어루 애기야 보시고 어루 애기야 어기영차 해기로구나 허나 으흐오 허나 어루 애기야 어루 애기야 어기영차 해기로구나 어이구 어기영차 해기로구나 어이구 해피 뉴 이어
Wow. Can we have another round of applause for Washington Storytelling? Next up, we have a panel exploring the impact of arts and storytelling and advocacy. Artists and advocates, through their unique channels and distinct platforms, have played a critical role in telling powerful stories, increasing awareness around key AAPI issues, and encouraging diversity and inclusion in all sectors of society. Moderating our panel is Daphne Kwok, a member of our President's Advisory Commission on AAPIs. Daphne is Vice President of Multicultural Markets and Engagement for the AAPI audience at AARP. She is also the former chair of the President's Advisory Commission. She was previously Executive Director of Asians and Pacific Islanders with Disabilities of California and Executive Director of the Angel Island Immigration Station Foundation. In DC, Daphne focused on increasing political participation of the AAPI community and working with AAPI elected officials as Executive Director of the Asian Pacific American Institute for Congressional Studies. For 11 years, she was the Executive Director of OCA, a nonprofit civil rights organization with more than 10,000 members. During her OCA tenure, Daphne was the first elected chair of the National Council on Asian Pacific Americans, a network of national AAPI organizations. A 1984 graduate of Wesleyan University in East Asian Studies and Music, Daphne is the first Asian American to serve on its board of trustees. Daphne is moderating our panel of artists and advocates today. In May, as part of AAPI Heritage Month, WIAPI will honor champions of change for AAPI art and storytelling who have raised the visibility of diverse AAPI experiences and created dialogue around issues the community faces. We'll be launching a call for nominations later this month, so stay tuned for that, and please welcome Daphne and our panelists.
Thank you so much, Bessie. Gongxi Fatsai, everybody. How's everybody doing today? Great. Okay. Well, we're going to have a chance to have a great panel here, and I'm going to ask each one of our panelists to briefly introduce themselves for a minute, and then I'm going to do some Q&A with them as well, too, and really try to get as much as we can in the time that we have allowed. So first, I'll have Chris Kang introduce himself, and as Tina mentioned, that he was here at the White House as well, and he's now the National Director of the National Council of Asian Pacific Americans.
Hi, my name is Chris Kang. Thanks so much for having me and having this opportunity to say Happy New Year. I am originally from Indiana, so sort of like Tina Chen, have not grown up with the great tradition of celebrating Lunar New Year. And so sort of Daphne asked us to bring in storytelling into our biographies. And so, as I think about identity and who I am, and sort of, especially in this position now, thinking a lot about my Asian American identity, I think about the young boy who grew up in Indiana without a lot of Asian American families and friends nearby, and thought about what it meant to be Asian American or Korean American at home, but not really embracing my identity outside in school, where I might be bullied or people might tease me because of my parents' accent or the food I ate. And I think about how far this country has come and how far I've come, and sort of really being able to embrace that identity and really being proud of being an Asian American, and sort of seeing how our community is coming together politically and service and sort of all of these different arts and science, every different aspect. And really that's what's led me to my job now, which is as National Director of the National Council of Asian Pacific Americans, where I'm really working to help provide a national voice for the Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander issues. So that's a couple minutes in a story-ish way of who I am.
A+, A+. Great. Jenny Kim with the Smithsonian Asian Pacific American Center.
Hello, thank you. I'm the acting director at the Asian Pacific American Center at the Smithsonian, and when Daphne asked us to kind of mold our bio to a story, I'm thinking really the story I tell of my mother, who was an opera singer in South Korea, and when she decided to leave my father, she packed up her 2 children and came to the United States with really very little. And having given up that life, that lifestyle and the means, and moving to Salt Lake City, Utah, where again, growing up in the early 70s, it was definitely a place where we were known as one of the first 12 Koreans to actually move to Utah. So that tells you the number of Asian Americans who lived in Utah at the time. And I think of that narrative that I tell, and I think of now having a daughter and what kind of narrative and story she would tell about her mother. And I hope that it is also a story of integrity and purpose and conviction that I'm able to say and recall about my mother. And growing up, my mother having been an opera singer and growing up with that kind of lifestyle, and then moving to Utah and living in a very small trailer and working a production line. That, to me, speaks of conviction and purpose, and I hope that my daughter can also speak of that. So when I am now at the Asian Pacific American Center, being at a national organization like the Smithsonian, I want the center to be a national resource to all the organizations around the United States, to give them the kind of national brand platform that the Smithsonian is able to give, and that is what we are hoping to do going forward.
Thank you. And Vanessa Vo, she's an Emmy Award composer and musician.
Hi, I am very honored to be here, and actually, I moved here in 2001. So even though I am a new, I just moved here not so long, but I was being able to share what I know best, which is traditional Vietnamese music. And what I learned from learning traditional music since I was young was that there is no border, there is no hatred, and there's love in the music that I'm learned. So I want to share of what I learned, and then or to just share love and peace, and just to make the world better, I guess.
Thank you so much. Okay, so the first question, all of them will be for all of them, and some of them have already answered it. But what is your favorite memory about Lunar New Year?
For me, I really remember the time when I was young, and then when Tet and then we will have a lot of food, a lot of sticky rice, which is bánh chưng, and then also the amazing thing that I remember that I will have a lot of lì xì, which is red envelope, and that's how I remember. And I don't need to worry about anything, just run around and eat as much as I want and get all the lì xì for myself and wear new clothes that I will get. That may be the only time of the year.
I think the red envelopes is an ongoing theme here, right? Everybody clearly remembers the red envelopes. Next.
Getting those $2 bills, that was always very magical, and hiding those under my pillow. My memory is sort of bittersweet because we didn't have a large family, and we didn't have a lot of friends who were Korean American or even Asian American growing up in Utah. So it's a little bittersweet, but it's mostly sweet in that it was a very private and intimate celebration that we had in our family. And that it's very different now, what my daughter will go through. They celebrated her school, we go to the grocery store and you see it, and it's even in the calendars now. So I see, when you're talking about, Chris, about the difference, and also when Tina mentioned the difference between what they experienced growing up and what our children are experiencing now, it's really kind of revolutionary, and it's a positive movement. But my recollection is a little bittersweet.
So sort of picking up on that, I'm going to be very generous with the term memory, because I think so far my favorite Lunar New Year memory is the one that just happened this past Lunar New Year. My daughter is 4 years old, and setting aside the obvious fact that whatever she does is the cutest thing you've ever seen. This year we sort of talked about Lunar New Year, and she decided that we were going to give red envelopes to all of her friends in her kindergarten prep class. She put a little good luck coin in and chopsticks, and then they took pictures. The teachers took pictures of her pre-K class, everybody using chopsticks to eat lunch. One of her friends made a little necklace out of the good luck coin. And it was an opportunity for her to not only teach kids about a little bit about our heritage, but really to embrace it in a way that was empowering, in a way that I didn't have that experience. And so I think that for me, like, this New Year is really the start of a tradition for our family, and it's one that it's a recent memory now, but I know that it's going to be one of my favorites for a long time.
That's a great example of the storytelling, right, in the title of today's panel. Great, thank you. This question is for Jenny and for Van An. Lunar New Year is a holiday about family and spending time with your loved ones. What role did your family play in shaping who you are today and the career paths that you chose?
Yes, I was born right after the war, which is in here we call Vietnam War, but in Vietnam it's called American War. Yes. So my father used to be the musician who instead of holding guns, during the war he had to enlist to the army, but to avoid holding guns, shooting people, he signed up as a musician, and he played terrible guitar at the time, but he got away with it. So after the war, he got back, and then he stayed in the same area that all the artists, the government put everyone who do art, musician, dancer, painter, writer, and everyone into the same area, and that's where I was born. And since the first day I was born there, I start to hear few people to practice music since 5:30 in the morning, because it's very hot during the day, so people wake up very early. And then they start to practice the instruments, and in front of me, someone would play Northern opera, but in the back of me, someone would sing Western opera. And then on the right-hand side of me, someone would practice Vietnamese funeral music. But on the left, someone tried to hit on the drum set and do the rock. So I grew up with all of that, and I had a very, very good, I think that's a special opportunity to expose to so different kind of music, and all the masters that we have in Vietnam and all the great artists that we have in Vietnam came from the same area. So I was expected, I have several masters that I follow to learn traditional music, and I think that is the best way that my family actually given me the opportunity to expose to who I am today and do what I love.
Thank you. Jenny?
I have a kind of a different background. Most of it is in media. And when I was in college, I was on this very kind of traditional track of going to law school, and I'd done an internship here at the Supreme Court in Washington, D.C., but I really did not want to go on that path. And so all of my professors were really pushing me for that, and I finally went back to my mother and I said, I don't feel my heart in this, I don't feel my soul in this. And she said, what do you really want to do? And I said, I want to be a screenwriter. And she said, well, then you should follow that. And so I got my 2 degrees and I left and I moved to Los Angeles. And I just was a bartender, and I was trying to write, and I ended up working in a couple of studios. But obviously I'm not in media now, but I think that taught me, and my mother instilled into me, if you don't have the passion for it, then you should not try and go for it. Even though obviously I could have gone to law school, I could have been an attorney and done that whole track, but she really said, this is, again, I think about the narrative that my daughter will be saying about me in the story, and I did follow my heart, and I'm not a writer, but at least it led me here.
Great. The next question is for Chris. 2016 being the year of the monkey. The monkey is often associated as a symbol of versatility and movement. What kind of movement have you seen in the arts or in policy and government in the last year, and what do you hope to see in the coming year? That's sort of a loaded question for Chris, right?
So I think that I want to pick up on the theme that Tina mentioned, and in terms of movement, I think there's no question about the movement and sort of the political power of our community. And you sort of look at the fact that just from the 2000 presidential election to 2012, the number of Asian American and Pacific Islander voters doubled. And the number of registered Asian American voters is going to double again by 2040. But even before we get there, there's a recognition of the growing power of our vote as long as we exercise it. And I think that that's the important part of the movement here, is that it's on all of us to make sure that we become citizens if we're not, or know others who become citizens, that we register to vote, and then we vote, because right now, Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders are not registered at the high rate that other communities are. We don't vote as much. We're leaving so much power on the table. And yet, despite that, just in the last 24 hours, there was an Associated Press article about the power of the Asian American vote in Nevada. There was an article today in the Washington Post about the Asian American Pacific Islander vote in Virginia. Articles that talk about both the Democratic and Republican outreach to our communities. That's huge. And so as we think about where we're going to be, this year and where the movement is of our community, I hope that it's reflected that we really do have the power to determine the future of our country, but only if we seize it.
Thank you. Next question is to Van An. What's your favorite artistic work, and what story does it tell?
I actually really be a fond of Kronos Quartet, who actually be my mentor. And when I look at their body of work, I really admire how they are very creative. They dare to share their voice, and they dare to think ahead of time. And when I have a chance to work with them later on, I actually wrote music and toured with them. I even feel the power that they just empower me. They just encourage me that do and share my most inner voice and just do what I really think that I should do. And so that is the groups that I really admire. And as an artist, I wish that there's in an ideal world, maybe all the artists will have a chance to work with them so that they can learn. Yeah.
Thank you. Jenny, what or who inspires you to make change in your community? Is there an AAPI artist or advocate that's inspired you?
There are actually a few. I'll be very brief. One is Grace Lee Boggs, who turned 100 before she passed away last October 2015. Yuri Kochiyama, and she is a Ford Foundation fellow named Dia Khan. And the reason why these individuals are really inspirational for us is at the center, at the Asian Pacific American Center, we've taken on a new theme called the intersectionality of cultures, which is the intersection of Asian cultures with other cultures, other people of color. And Grace Lee Boggs was so integral to a lot of civil rights movements, including the African American movement, to the point where in her FBI file, apparently it's written that she could, quote unquote, probably be Afro-Chinese because she was so integral to their movement. Yuri Kochiyama was a very much involved in Malcolm X's movement. And Dia Khan, as a fellow, she is right at the heart of art and activism. And she made a comment recently at a Ford Foundation event called the Art of Change Initiative, which is a very innovative year-long initiative that the Ford Foundation is undertaking about the power of art. And Dia Khan said, why is it that people like abusers and oppressors around the world understand the power of art? Because art lives in our inner self, and in our inner self is hope and our soul. And why is it that abusers and oppressors, when the first thing they want to do to oppress people is they line up the artist, they line up women, dissidents, activists, and intellectuals, because they want to crush the human soul. And so she said, this is something that we need to understand, is that the power of art is so critical to our vitality as a community, as a free community. And that is something that we need to understand that power because it lives within us. And I think that as an advocate for art and the art of change is very powerful.
There's a powerful last statement there about the artists. Chris, how has storytelling been used as a tool to move issues and raise awareness of challenges the AAPI community faces?
So I think it's twofold. One, I tell a story a lot about my father. My father grew up in South Korea. He lost his eyesight as a teenager, lost both of his parents soon after, and as a blind orphan in growing up in South Korea, facing discrimination against the handicapped in general and blind in particular, sort of his career options were limited to giving massages and telling fortunes. But he didn't stand for that, and he didn't accept that, and he sort of fought to change the system. He fought to be able to take the entrance exam. He graduated from Yonsei University. He went on to try to come to the United States to learn postgraduate studies, had to petition the government to be allowed to do that, and came here to the University of Pittsburgh and became the first blind Korean person to earn a PhD. He went on to become a very outspoken disability advocate, including serving on President George W. Bush's National Council on Disability. And as much as he did work to try to open doors for others through policy changes, it's really the power of his life story that I witnessed firsthand growing up, to seeing how people would see him and see what he was able to accomplish and sort of instantly understand the power of every human being and the power of possibility and the really how wrong that discrimination was against people with disabilities that led to eventually Korea adopting a law similar to the U.S. Americans with Disabilities Act. And so, I think that's a powerful example of one person's story making a difference. If I also just note sort of more contemporaneously, one thing that I've been fascinated by as I've gone out into the world of social media and Twitter, which is fairly new to me, but feel free to follow me at Chris and Kappa. I figure if other people can plug their websites during presidential debates, I can plug my Twitter handle here. But one thing I thought was fascinating is there's a high school student in California named Jason Fong, and he started this new Twitter tag, hashtag #MyAsianAmericanStory. And it's an opportunity for all of us out there to talk about our Asian American story, and within those small 140 characters, find a sense of commonality and community that I really think binds us together. And so seeing sort of fascinating, innovative ideas like that really help move the narrative through storytelling. 100 characters or less, when you count the characters for My Asian American Story, is really powerful. And I think that it is something that I hope folks will continue to build on and hopefully find space in something longer than a tweet to share their stories.
Thank you. Okay, next round of this is going to be like a lightning round. You know how those game shows have lightning rounds? So this one's up. Anyone can answer this question. Is there a book, film, or TV show that everyone in this room ought to read, and why?
The Asian Pacific American Center, I'll put a plug in for our website, smithsonianapa.org, has a top 25 APA books for 2015 on the list. I'm very impressed with a few filmmakers and artists. I think Justin Lin, to me, embodies really what a 21st century filmmaker should be seen as, not for his race or his ethnic background, but for his body of work. And I think that I've been very impressed with him because if you see all the films that he's really cast against type. And so the fact that if you look at the Fast and Furious franchise, the film franchise, it has a very diverse cast, and it's doing very well in the box office. And it's telling the media and the industry that you can have a diverse cast, and you don't have to think, why does this Asian American in this role, if it's not made for an Asian American individual? I think also Aziz Ansari, who's a comedian and actor, he is doing work with humor and getting across his very unique South Asian background and history and translating it for all of us who are not South Asian in very humorous, everyday situations that make his story very relatable. And I think Grace Lee, the filmmaker who did the documentary on Grace Lee Boggs, I think she's very innovative and progressive in the way she looks at individuals, iconic individuals, and tells their stories.
Who else would like to answer the question? No. Why not? No? Okay, Chris?
As this question was originally posed, it was what is a must read or must see? And so I'm going to cheat and say something that I haven't actually read yet, but it's must read for me, and that's the Making of Asian America, a history by Erica Lee, which sort of traces the entire history of our community. And so it's been on my nightstand for longer than I'd care for it to be, but I really do think that those kinds of books and histories are so important to understanding really our community.
Great, okay. One more question we have here before we go to the closing question is, the stories we grow up with often teach some sort of lesson or moral. What is the best piece of advice that you've ever received, and what is the worst piece of advice you've ever received?
Recently, since I moved here 2001, I actually have an opportunity to listen to story of the other side of the war, which is the Vietnamese Southerner, and also from the American veteran. And I was born in north of Vietnam and grew up in North Vietnam and moved here until 2001. So this living in here gave me a very special opportunity to be able to listen to story, how war will destroy us, the consequences of war on us as of civilians from all different sides. And that, as a musician, I only have music as my tool, and I want to share the story of the strength of human spirits, how resilient we were and how resilient we can be, and hope that we can find when we have to go through the most difficult time in life. And so I actually wrote a new music production that tells the story of Vietnamese boat people and their strength, that how they could surpass the upheaval in life. And from there, I really want to, for my own personal reason, I think that I learned a lot about love, about sorrow, about forgiveness and peace. And I also learned that the consequences of wars on us is terrible, because it's not only destroy us right at that when it happened, but then it also creates hatred, and hatred is the most destroy thing, because hatred will turn us into enemies, turn us into, it's go down to generations. And I think that why not spread our love instead of spread our hatred? So that's what I think I learned and I found.
Hopefully, we'll have a chance to all be able to see your piece or hear your piece.
Yeah.
Thank
Yes.
you. Anyone else want to respond to that one question? The moral lessons.
Oh, yes. In school, I was advised by a school counselor not to go to Wellesley because I would turn out to be a lesbian. So that was the worst advice. On the flip side of that, my mother's response to that would be, "What's wrong with that?" So that's the best advice.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how I follow that. I will say this. I think that one of the best pieces of advice I had is not literally a piece of advice, but sort of something that I've seen growing up and then being in this professional world. And then in particular, for 4 years here at the White House, I worked on the president's judicial nominations. And one of the things I was struck by, as you might imagine, one of the questions I ask people is, why are you interested in applying for this position now? What makes this the right time? And somewhat disproportionately, women and people of color would say, because somebody else encouraged me, which is great, by the way, and we have to be very supportive of each other, but they didn't see it for themselves. And I think that one of the pieces of advice that I've gotten is to always think bigger for yourself. Don't settle for what you think you're capable of, what you think you quote unquote deserve. Because there's a lot of different sort of systems and structures in place that I feel sometimes limit our perception of self-worth and sort of what we deserve and what we're capable of. And so sort of that's the advice that I give people is it's great to do things when people encourage you to. And so when somebody says you should do this, don't play it off like, oh, that's very nice, that's very sweet of you. Like really take that to heart and start seeing that in yourself. Because more of us need to start raising our hands and saying, yes, that is something I can do. That is something I should do. That's something I deserve to do. And I think that in doing so, we'll all move ourselves forward a lot more.
Great pieces of advice from all three. Okay, in conclusion now, the last question that we wanted to ask all of you is, what is the biggest issue facing the AAPI community, and how can artists and storytellers address this issue?
Well, that's a good question. I was used to not going first here, going at the end, having a little more time to think about it. I think that the biggest issue really facing our community is sort of how do we see ourselves in this community. I talked a lot about being politically active. Talked about being a part of this community of color and sort of what does that mean? And sort of how is it that a lot of these debates that are coming our way throughout the next year, whether it's immigration and the possibility of undocumented AAPIs being able to stay in this country, what are the stories? Because the statistics are great, right? Almost 500,000 AAPIs would benefit from the president's immigration executive action, and that's important, but it really is telling is when you start pulling out the stories, the individual stories of the students and their parents who'd be affected and benefit, and then seeing those who've already benefited from the president's first set of executive action and what they're able to achieve, and sort of telling those stories, I think, are really going to help drive this debate and make it real for us in a way that I think the statistics and data, as important as they are, can't quite do.
For me, as an artist, I really find myself that it's very challenging for Asian American artists, and it's also especially being a female artist. But that will not hold me back, and I don't think that there's any reason that we have to step back, because if you believe in what you do, and if, like me, when I believe that music is a way to share is a way to share love, is a way to share peace, then why I have to step back? So I should go with all strength that I can have, and I believe that together with me and behind me there's a lot of other female artists or another people will help me and back me up.
Great. And Jenny?
I mean, I think there are a lot of issues, from violence against Asian Americans, like the home in the Hmong in Twin Cities, to being seen as a perpetual foreigner, even though you've lived here, maybe even been a first or second generation American, being born here. I'm thinking in terms of one of the biggest issues facing, I think, our children is this, and you've written about this and spoken about this model minority myth and the stereotype, which really cuts the swath across all ages of children, from early ages in elementary school to postgraduate. And I think that it is much more detrimental to children and students' abilities to learn in the ways that they are accustomed to learning, to progress and succeed and achieve without being pitted against one another, against others. Also, I think that this stereotype really dismisses the various needs that our communities have, whether it's social services, whether it's access to information. This is something that permeates, I think, across a lot of different areas of our communities, and it's still reportedly seen as something, as an acceptable and almost even a compliment to Asian Americans, which it is not. And I think that this concerns me and my child as she grows up, but I think that this is something we need to work much more with storytelling, because storytelling is really allowing people to bear witness to you and to your story. And I think that if we can do that in a manner that makes sense and through art, I think it's much more approachable than just going out there and saying this is wrong, because clearly we've been saying it's wrong for some time and it hasn't made an impact.
What a fantastic panel. So substantive from so many different angles and perspectives. Thank you, Van An, Jenny, and Chris for celebrating and being part of our Lunar New Year celebrations of WIAPI. And I hope that everyone really takes to heart what was said today and how important storytelling is and how important it is to really document, record all our histories, right? Because if we don't do it, who's going to do it for us? I want to thank the WIAPI staff for today's session. And thank you so much, Tina, for your continued leadership and guidance from day one of the initiative. Thank you so much.